You're listening to SportsJAM, episode 19, recorded January 3rd, 2012. PETA strikes.
I'm Chad Cetera. NFL Wildcard Weekend is upon us. We break down the matchups.
I'm Stephen Pepper. LSU, Alabama for the national title. Need I say more?
And I'm Rob Steele. Spring training starts, in about 6 weeks, so Chad wants me to talk about the NBA.
SportsJAM is now.
NFL Wildcard Weekend, Pittsburgh at Denver. Stephen, what a great matchup. The Pittsburgh Steelers at 12-4 head to Denver to play Tim Tebow.
Well, Chad, Pittsburgh 12-4 as Baltimore Ravens. I feel that Pittsburgh's getting a bye week as well. They don't even need to play any of their starters. This is not even going to be a game.
All right, let's talk about this a little bit because you've got Ben Roethlisberger who has a bummed ankle, high ankle sprain, which is very difficult to heal during the season. And you've got Rashard Mendenhall who tore an ACL in the last game of the season against Cleveland, which is a bye week in essence. They go to Denver. Denver has a very strong defense, and as bad as Tim Tebow is, I do believe that we have to look up in the heavens and pray that Tim Tebow doesn't to the second round of the playoffs. But
every time.
Rob, what are you doing over here?
You said the magic word, and it gets a sound effect now.
Magic word. What is that word?
I don't know, but think about it, Steven. If Denver wins this game, we get to see Tim Tebow in the second round. The magic must have been said again.
So, are you saying Kansas City's defense is better than Pittsburgh's defense?
No, I'm not saying that at all, but I'm saying Pittsburgh...
They could only score 3 against Kansas City.
Well, that's because Tim Tebow had a bad game.
He's had 3 bad games in a row. Tim Tebow is not going to get it done against the Pittsburgh defense.
No, he's not.
One of you caught on.
No, and I agree with you, Stephen. Pittsburgh should have the bye week this week. It is the last game of the NFL wildcard weekend that we get to see, and the end of Tim Tebow will finally be put to rest. I agree with you. Pittsburgh's going to move on to the second round. What about that other AFC matchup? The 9-7, let's back our way into the playoffs, Cincinnati Bengals, who finished third in their own division, which, never mind. We will talk about not finishing first in your division later on today. At the Houston Texans, their first time in franchise history, 10-6, but they've lost 3 games in a row. They backed themselves into the playoffs. This game is ugly at best.
I agree. I don't think Houston can get it done.
Were you going to say Tim Tebow?
I was, but I stopped myself for the fear of the noise. But I don't think Houston can get it done. Their defense is good, but Cincinnati had them beat when they played them a couple weeks ago, and they let Houston come back and beat them 2019. I think Andy Dalton, AJ Green will get it done. I think they'll advance. I mean, you have Steelers, Ravens, and Cincinnati coming out of the same division. That is the strongest division in NFL.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's a very strong division, but you're going to Houston. That crowd is going to be amped. I don't think they've seen a playoff game in decades. I mean, you'd almost think that Houston is actually Buffalo. You haven't seen a playoff game in decades. But the first time they're in the playoffs, you've got number 1 pick Mario Williams on defense. You've got, TJ Yates is your quarterback. He's a third-string quarterback.
Hold on. Who is he? Tim Tebow?
He is no Tim Tebow. I will tell you that. No, but you look at the Houston offense. Andre Johnson should be back healthy. He played very limited against the Titans this past weekend. Now you get him back. He should be full strength. Yes, I know it's the early game on Saturday, the 4 o'clock. I guess if you call that early. But you've got Arian Foster, and his backup, Ben Tate, is awesome. That running game is awesome. Their defense is awesome. Houston at home, in my opinion, is going to pave their way to Baltimore. And then you're going to see a Baltimore-Houston matchup and a Pittsburgh-New England matchup for the second round in the AFC.
I agree, but I think Pittsburgh gets it done, and I think Baltimore, we might see Pittsburgh-Baltimore.
Yeah, that'd be sick, wouldn't it? As long as we don't see Tim Tebow in the second round, we'll be good.
I want to see him in the Super Bowl. I want to see him in the Super Bowl so we can have Madonna sing Like a Virgin to him.
And who is that him you are referring to? Say it.
Brendan Lehan?
No.
Boo.
The man that controls the sound effects, ladies and gentlemen, is the man that just wussed out on saying his name.
Because we've heard it enough already in this segment.
Okay, so let's go to the NFC, where there are real quarterbacks playing this weekend. Nobody that's hurt, no rookie, no god-like person, and no third-string quarterback. We've got a great matchup on Saturday night. The high-flying Detroit Lions at 10-6, their first playoff appearance since 1999, travel to New Orleans to the Superdome to play against the best quarterback in modern history with 5,400 yards passing in one season, Drew Brees, and the NFC South Division champion New Orleans Saints.
Chad.
That's a mouthful.
This is not even a game. If Matt Flynn from the Green Bay Packers, the backup, can go 31 for 44 for 480 yards and 6 TDs against Detroit, why can't Drew Brees do it? He has more weapons. And he's playing at home. At home, they're unstoppable. They're undefeated at home this year.
41 points per game at home, including a whitewashing of your team while we were on our Christmas break. I don't see how you don't think it's going to be a game because it's exciting. When you have a quarterback like Matthew Stafford and a wide receiver like Calvin Johnson, and you saw it in Green Bay, and yes, I understand Matt Flynn, huge game. Green Bay wins. Detroit gets stuck going to New Orleans. I understand that. But when you have Detroit and you have that explosive offense, and you never know when the defense is going to step on somebody or spit on them or chop them in the nuts or something like that, you never know. It could be a game. I agree with you, but you've got to think that Detroit's at least going to hang in there for a while.
No, not New Orleans. They are unbeatable in New Orleans.
New Orleans, we both agree, are going to win. I think it's going to be a game more so than what you think. They would end up going to San Francisco with a victory and play against the 49ers. What about the other NFC game? It's your team. It's your boys, your Super Bowl pick, the Atlanta Falcons, second place in the NFC South, 10-6 record. Looked awesome this past Sunday against Tampa Bay, but then again, I think the high school team in downtown Atlanta could look awesome against Tampa Bay. Against the New York Giants, 9-7, with an offense. It's
of cheese.
This game is Jekyll and Hyde. I'll just tell you that now, because the Giants are 9-7. They look great the last 2 weeks. They beat the Jets on the road, but at home. Anyways, then they beat the Cowboys, and they didn't just beat the Cowboys; they beat them down. And you have to
in Rome. What was that?
Chad, yeah. Give me the stat about Michael Turner that you told me the other day when we talked.
19 carries a game. The Atlanta Falcons are 10-0. If he doesn't carry the ball 19 times, they're 0-6.
Mike Smith, he's going to know that. They're going to come out running.
He better know it. He better be listening to this damn show. That's all I have to say.
I think he does. Maybe we'll get.
I'll send him an email.
If you run the ball first, then you go off the play action. You have Roddy White and Julio Jones. He's a beast. When he's healthy, he is sick. He scored 2 touchdowns against Tampa Bay. I had to cover my eyes. It was so good. It was just nasty.
You forgot to mention the favorite target for Matt Ryan, and that's the Hall of Famer and Tony Gonzalez.
Thank you.
Who just signed another year extension. So Tony Gonzalez on his crutches will be running out in the field next year for the Atlanta Falcons. But when you look at the New York Giants, look at their running game also. You've got a bruiser in Brandon Jacobs. You've got a high flyer in Ahmad Bradshaw. And then you've got Eli Manning. And yes, he is not Peyton, but Eli Manning has a Super Bowl ring.
Falcons.
He has targets. Victor Cruz, who is this guy? He does what kind of dance does he do in the end zone? First of all, but 1,500 yards for a guy who only had 20 catches at most in any single season before this year.
I'm telling you, Falcons are one of the best against the run. They'll stop Jacobs and Bradshaw. And, it's going to be a shootout. But Falcons are going to win because they're going to control the ball. They'll control the ball with Turner, and they will win by 2 touchdowns, Chad.
Wow. And that would be your matchup that you want to see in the NFL, and that would be Atlanta heading to Green Bay to try to get revenge from last year's playoff. Steven, I want to sit here and agree with you that Atlanta's going to win, but the Giants at home. And that's the only way.
They're 4-4 at home. They're 4-4 at home.
And Atlanta's horrible on the road.
They're 4-4 on the road.
Yeah, they're equally as bad on the road as they are as the Giants are at home. Then again, the Giants are 5-4 at home because they beat the Jets at home. On the road.
Hode.
It should be an interesting wild card weekend. And speaking of interesting, I'm excited about this. It's time for me to invade extra inning. Rob, cue the music. It's time for Let's Play Where's Waldo?
It's time for baseball news with
Extra innings.
It's time for the invasion. I am taking over extra innings with a segment I want to call the Extra Innings Where's Waldo? Or better yet, Where's Prince Fielder? We are now in 2012. Prince Fielder hasn't signed anywhere. And since our baseball insider Rob has no idea where he's going, I'm going to play Where's
Texas.
Let's talk about that. Where is Waldo going? Where is Prince Fielder going? I say he's going to the Chicago Cubs.
Probably third or fourth on the list. I'm just having trouble seeing him going to the Cubs.
Theo Epstein brings in big names in places that he has been. Boston example. Why wouldn't he bring in a big name here?
Because he doesn't have the money yet.
Speaking of,
They've got to unload a lot of salary to fit someone in like Prince
they just
Fielder.
start printing money in Chicago. That's what they do in Chicago. Speaking of printing money, why wouldn't Prince Fielder go to the New York Yankees or the Boston Red Sox?
Mark Teixeira and Alex Rodriguez take up the first base and DH position in New York. Adrian Gonzalez is they just signed him last year. Why would they move him now? He just put up the MVP numbers for Boston in 2011.
Keep Prince Fielder, who last year hit .299, had a .415 on-base percentage with a .566 slugging percentage, 38 home runs, 120 RBIs, and the only player in Major League last year to play 162 games. Why doesn't he just stay home, stay in Milwaukee?
I'd love to see him stay in Milwaukee. I don't know that that's entirely going to happen anymore. I think they're actually second on the list of where he's going to go. They just picked up Aramis Ramirez from the Cubs, who could be a replacement for Prince Fielder in Milwaukee. So
that won't work.
It's they could move him over to first. They could keep him at third. He's a bit more, versatile in the field. I don't think he's going to put up Prince Fielder's numbers at the plate, but they've already pretty much got their replacement for
him. How about the Houston Astros? They're a horrible team. They're going to probably move to the American League. Hey, let him play first base and then move him to the DH position when the team moves over to the American League and has a DH position.
Well, we got to keep in mind that he's a free agent and can go where he wants to.
And who would want to go to Houston?
Would you want to go to Houston?
Good point. What about the Washington Nationals? In years past, it was Montreal. Now they're Washington. They've been horrible. Washington?
They have an outside chance. They've been doing a lot with their pitching. They've got, Bryce Harper coming up, who is supposed to be the next Wunderkind and just be a spectacular player for them. And the problem with him is he was drafted as a catcher. They're trying to move him to the outfield. That usually doesn't work very well. The only example that I can think of where it's really worked really well, I guess the two examples, Dale Murphy and Craig Biggio. And there have been a ton of players that they've tried doing it with where it's just flopped. So where else would you put him? You got to put him at first base because you need to put his bat in the lineup. If you bring in Prince Fielder, you don't have that option.
Then you don't want to sit a 19-year-old versus a 27, 28-year-old.
Right.
All potential there in Washington. So that leaves to what the team you said. You said at the beginning of Where's Waldo Going, the Texas Rangers.
Texas.
Why Texas?
Because Texas, 1, has the money, 2, needs to counter Albert Pujols coming over to California, Los Angeles, Anaheim, wherever the hell the Angels are this week, and they don't have a first baseman. They've made it to the last 2 World Series without a first baseman.
How are they getting outs at first base?
Well, granted, the first baseman has to just stand there, catch ball, step on base. You're good, usually. If you want a good one, hey, dive for ball, catch ball, run ball to base.
He's there every game.
And he's there every game. And if you need him to, yes, you can put someone else in to play first and have him DH. That's the most logical fit for him. Going to a team that is already established that could very easily go back to the World Series again next year.
And if you get Prince Fielder in that lineup, that deadly lineup in Texas, that could be very dangerous for the rest of the American League. There we go.